The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Empire monitoring station like angry metal birds. Commander Velthari's 6 eyes opened wide as he stared at the display screen. Something impossible was happening in Sector 7 Alpha. "This cannot be right," he said to his assistant. His voice made a clicking sound that meant he was very worried. "Run the scan again." The numbers came back the same. An unknown ship had just appeared in space using faster-than-light travel, but the energy signature was completely wrong. It did not match anything in their databases. The Galactic Empire had records of every single species that could travel between stars. They had been watching the galaxy for 10,000 years. "Sir," his assistant said, "the computer says this technology should not work. The energy patterns are strange." Velthari felt his stomach twist. In all his years of service, he had never seen the computer say something was impossible. The Empire's technology was perfect. Their knowledge was complete. Every species in the galaxy used the same basic principles for space travel. You either used quantum tunneling drives or spatial fold generators. There was no other way. But this ship was using neither. 300 light-years away, Captain Hyjin stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride and smiled. They had done it. Humanity had finally left their own star system and traveled to another part of space. "Taemin, are all systems working?" she asked her communications officer. Taemin checked his screens and nodded. "Yes, Captain. The jump drive is cooling down normally. All crew members are fine. We are exactly where we wanted to be." The Soul's Pride was not a big ship. Compared to other vessels that traveled between stars, it was tiny. But it was special. Human engineers had built it using ideas that no other species had ever tried. They combined old Earth technology with new theories about space and time. "Junho, how is our engine?" Hyejin asked her chief engineer. Junho wiped sweat from his face. The jump had been rough, but it worked. "The fusion core is stable, Captain. The gravitational lens is holding. We can make another jump in 6 hours if needed." Other species used engines that bent space around their ships or created tunnels through dimensions. Humans could not build those engines. They did not have the right materials or knowledge. So they made something different. They used spinning masses and controlled gravity fields to push themselves through space faster than light. The Empire's scientists would have laughed at the design. They would have said it was impossible and dangerous. But it worked. "Captain," Taemin said suddenly, "I am getting strange signals. Someone is scanning us." Hyejin frowned. They were supposed to be in empty space. "Can you tell where the signals are coming from?" "Multiple sources, very far away. The signals are organized, like they belong to some kind of network." On the monitoring station, Velthari was calling his superiors. This was beyond his authority to handle. The High Council needed to know about this immediately. "You are certain the ship is not in our records?" asked Council Member Zextar through the communication link. "Completely certain, Honored One. We have checked every database. This species does not exist in our files, but they have achieved interstellar travel using unknown technology." There was a long pause. "That is impossible. We have monitored this galaxy for millennia. Every species is cataloged when they first achieve spaceflight." "Yes, Honored One, but the evidence is clear. This vessel came from a system we have designated as primitive. Our last survey showed only simple life forms on the 3rd planet." "When was that survey?" Velthari checked his records. 2,000 years ago, Honored One." Another pause. "Continue monitoring. Do not make contact. We must study this anomaly before taking action." Back on the Soul's Pride, the crew was excited. They were the first humans to see another star system up close. Taemin had set up equipment to listen for any signs of intelligent life. So Young, their scientist, was taking measurements of everything she could detect. "Captain," So Young said, "this system is very old. The star is much older than our sun. If there is life here, it has had millions of years to develop." "Any signs of civilization?" Hyejin asked. "Not in this system, but I am detecting artificial structures in nearby systems. Lots of them. Captain, I think we are not alone out here." Junho looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, we have a problem. Our fuel is lower than expected. The jump used more energy than we calculated. Heejin felt her stomach drop. They had enough fuel to get home, but not much extra. If they had to run from something, they might not make it back to Earth. How long until we can jump again? 4 hours if we push the engines. 6 hours to be safe. On the monitoring station, more alarms were going off. Velthari's assistant was pointing at new readings on the screens. Sir, we have bigger problems. A Vrakthari war fleet just entered the same sector. Velthari felt ice in his veins. The Vrakthari were one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They were warriors who conquered other species for sport. They had powerful ships and no mercy for the weak. How many ships? 12 heavy cruisers and their support fleet. They are moving toward the unknown vessel. This was very bad. The Vrakthari had simple rules for first contact. They would demand the new species submit to their empire. If the species refused, the Vrakthari would destroy them completely. They had done this to 47 civilizations in the past 1,000 years. Should we warn the unknown ship? His assistant asked. Velthari thought about this. The Empire's laws were clear. They did not interfere in first contact situations, but this was different. This species was not in their records. They did not know what might happen. No, he said finally. We watch and record. The High Council will want complete data. On the Soul's Pride, Taemin was getting worried. The signals scanning them were getting stronger, and now he was detecting something new. Captain, I have multiple large objects approaching our position. They are still very far away, but they are moving fast. How large? Taemin did some calculations. Each one is about 10 times bigger than our ship, and there are many of them. Hyojin felt her training kick in. She had been in the Korean Navy before joining the space program. She knew what it meant when unknown ships approached your position. Junho, how fast can we charge the jump drive? 3 hours minimum, Captain. The gravitational coils need time to cool and reset. Dongwu, she called to her tactical officer, what are our options if those ships are hostile? Dongwu had been studying the approaching contacts. Not good, Captain. If those ships have weapons, we cannot fight them. Our ship was built for exploration, not war. So Young looked up from her instruments. Captain, I am analyzing the approaching ships. Their design is very advanced. Much more advanced than anything we could build. How advanced? Their engines are putting out more power than our entire ship uses. Their hulls are made from materials I cannot identify. Captain, if they want to fight us, we will lose. The Vrakthari fleet was getting closer. Admiral Krektor stood on the bridge of his flagship and studied the strange vessel on his screens. It was small and looked very primitive. The hull was made from simple metals. The weapons were basic chemical rockets. It was clearly from a species that had just learned to travel between stars. This would be easy. Communications, he ordered. Prepare the standard first contact message. Tell them they have the honor of joining the Vrakthari Empire. They have 1 hour to submit or be destroyed. Yes, Admiral, Krektor smiled, showing his sharp teeth. He loved first contact situations. New species always thought they could negotiate, or fight back. They never understood that resistance was useless. The Vrakthari had never lost a first contact war. This would not be different. On the Soul's Pride, alarms were going off. The approaching ships had sent a message. Taemin was, trying to translate it, but the language was completely unknown. What do you think it says? Hyejin asked. Based on the tone and repetition, I think it is some kind of demand. They want us to do something. So Young was studying the alien ships with their telescopes. Captain, these vessels are designed for war. Look at all those weapon ports. Those are not exploration ships. Hyejin made her decision. All hands prepare for emergency jump. Junho, push the engines as hard as you can. We are leaving this system now. Captain, the coils are not ready. If we jump now, we might damage the ship. Better damaged than dead. But as Junho started the emergency startup sequence, more alarms went off. The alien ships had increased speed. They would reach the Soul's Pride before the jump drive was ready. Humanity's first contact with alien life was about to begin, and it did not look like it would be friendly. The Vrakthari ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel like metal mountains falling from the sky. 12 massive warships spread out in a formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. Each ship was dark gray with red markings that looked like scars across their hulls. Admiral Krektor stood on his command bridge and looked at the small human ship on his main screen. It was so tiny compared to his fleet. His flagship alone was 50 times larger than the strange vessel. "Sir," his communications officer said, "the alien ship is not responding to our message." "Give them more time," Krektor replied. "New species always need time to understand their situation. Fear makes them slow to think." On the Soul's Pride, panic was spreading through the crew. Captain Hyojin tried to stay calm, but her heart was beating fast. The alien ships were huge and covered with weapons. This was not the peaceful first contact that humans had always hoped for. "So Young," she said to her science officer, "can you understand their message?" So Young was working with Taemin to decode the alien transmission. They had computers that could analyze languages, but this was completely different from anything on Earth. "I think they want us to surrender, Captain," So Young said. "The message keeps repeating the same words. Based on the tone, it sounds like a demand." "Taemin, can we send a reply?" "I can try, Captain, but I do not know their language," Hyojin thought quickly. She remembered her diplomatic training from the Navy. Sometimes showing peaceful intentions could prevent a fight. Send them mathematical concepts first, prime numbers, then the periodic table of elements. Show them we are intelligent but not threatening. Taemin began transmitting. On the Vrakthari flagship, the communications officer looked confused. "Admiral, the aliens are sending mathematical data, numbers and scientific information." Krektor laughed. It was a harsh sound like metal grinding against stone. "They think they can impress us with their primitive science. How typical. All new species try this. Should we respond, sir?" "No. They will submit when they understand our power. Begin the demonstration." The Vrakthari ships moved into attack formation. They were very organized, like a machine made of metal and death. The smaller ships formed a circle around the human vessel while the larger ones pointed their weapons forward. On the monitoring station, Velthari was recording everything. This was exactly what the Vrakthari always did. They would show their power, demand submission, and then destroy any species that refused. "Sir," his assistant said, "should we contact the High Council?" "They are already watching. This transmission is going directly to the capital world." Light years away, in the great halls of the Galactic Empire's government, hundreds of beings from different species watched the screens. They had all seen this before. The Vrakthari were brutal but predictable. This new species would either surrender or die. But some of the older council members were worried. A species not in their records was disturbing. How had they missed an entire civilization developing interstellar travel? Back in space, Dongwu was studying the alien formation on his tactical screens. He had been a military analyst before joining the space program. He understood combat formations and strategy. "Captain," he said quietly, "I think I know what they are doing." "Tell me." "It is like old naval warfare on Earth. They are showing us their guns and waiting for us to surrender. But Captain, there is something strange about their formation." "What do you mean?" Dongwu pointed at his screen. "They are thinking in 2 dimensions, like ships on an ocean, but we are in space. There is no up or down here. Their formation has blind spots." Hyojin looked at the display. Dongwu was right. The alien ships were arranged like Earth navies, used to fight on the sea. They had not adapted their thinking to 3-dimensional space combat. "Junho," she called to engineering, "how much longer for the jump drive?" 90 minutes, Captain. I cannot make it faster without risking explosion." That was too long. The alien ships were getting closer. They would be in weapons range soon. "Captain," Taemin said, "the aliens are sending a new message. This one is different." The new transmission was shorter and had an angry tone. So Young listened carefully and checked her analysis computers. "Captain, I think this is their final warning. The tone suggests they are running out of patience." On the Vrakthari flagship, Krektor was indeed getting impatient. Most species surrendered. By now, a few tried to run. But this ship was just sitting there, sending mathematical equations. Communications send the final ultimatum. They have 30 minutes to surrender or we will open fire. Yes, Admiral. The message that reached the soul's pride was much clearer. Even without understanding the words, the meaning was obvious. The alien ships were charging their weapons. Energy signatures were building across their hulls. Captain, So Young said, those weapons are more powerful than anything we have ever imagined. If they fire at us, our ship will be destroyed instantly. Yi Jin felt the weight of responsibility. She was not just the captain of one ship. She was humanity's first representative to alien life. Whatever happened here would determine how the galaxy saw her entire species. Taemin, open a channel. Send them our strongest peaceful signal. What should I say, Captain? Tell them we come in peace, that we want to learn and share knowledge. Use every peaceful symbol and concept we can think of. The message went out, but the Vrakthari response was immediate. Their weapons charged higher. Warning shots fired past the soul's pride close enough to make the ship shake. They are not interested in peace, Dongwu said grimly. Hyejin made a decision that would change everything. Instead of trying to run or surrender, she chose to fight back. But not in a way the aliens would expect. All crew, prepare for combat. Maneuvers. Dongwu, I need you to find the weaknesses in their formation. Junho, can our shuttle bay be opened during flight? Yes, Captain. But why? Because we are going to do something they will not expect. The Soul's Pride had 6 small shuttles designed for exploring planets. They were not military vessels, but they were fast and maneuverable. Each one could carry a small crew and basic equipment. Captain, Dongwu said, if you are thinking what I think you are thinking, it is very dangerous. Everything is dangerous, now. But look at their ships. They are big and slow. They turn like mountains. Our shuttles are small and fast. Hyejin was remembering stories her grandfather told her about the Korean War. Small, fast fighters attacking large, powerful enemies, using speed and surprise instead of strength. So Young, can we put any weapons on the shuttles? Not real weapons, Captain. But we have construction tools. Cutting lasers, magnetic clamps, explosive charges for mining asteroids. That will have to do. On the Vrakthari flagship, sensors detected the small craft launching from the human ship. Krektor looked at them with amusement. They are sending out escape pods, he told his crew. How pathetic. They abandoned their ship to save themselves. But his tactical officer was not so sure. Admiral, those craft are not running away. They are moving toward us. Impossible. They are too small to be weapons. The Vrakthari had fought many species, but they all used the same basic strategy. Big ships with big guns fighting other big ships with big guns. No one had ever attacked them with tiny craft that moved like angry insects. Sir, the tactical officer said with growing concern, those small ships are very fast, and they are separating. Each one is taking a different path. So what? They have no weapons that can hurt us. But Krektor was wrong. The human shuttles were carrying something the Vrakthari had never faced before. They had construction equipment designed to break apart asteroids, shaped charges that could crack open planetoids to mine their cores. The first shuttle, piloted by Min-Ki, approached the nearest Vrakthari cruiser from below. The alien ship's weapons could not turn far enough to target something directly underneath. Min-Ki had been a pilot in the Korean Air Force before joining the space program. He knew how to fly fast and low, how to avoid enemy fire, how to strike at the weak points of larger aircraft. He attached his shuttle's magnetic clamps to the alien hull and planted mining charges designed to crack asteroids. Then he flew away, as fast as his engines could carry him. The explosion was not large, but it was in exactly the right place. The charges punched through the alien ship's armor and hit something important inside. Lights went out across one section of the cruiser. What was that? Krektor shouted. Unknown, Admiral. One of the small craft attached something to our hull. We have damage to Deck 7. Impossible. Their weapons are too primitive. But across the fleet, the same thing was happening. Human shuttles were darting between the massive alien ships, like minnows around whales. They were too small and fast for the big weapons to track. They attacked from angles the aliens had never considered. The Vrakthari formation, so perfect for fighting other large ships, was completely helpless against this new kind of attack. Their weapons were designed to destroy enemy vessels in single shots. But you cannot use a giant cannon to swat a fly. On the Soul's Pride, Heejin watched her pilots work. Each shuttle was doing exactly what she had hoped. They were using their small size and speed to get inside the enemy formation, where the big guns could not reach them. "Captain," Yunseo called from the weapons station, "I have an idea for our main ship. Tell me." The Vrakthari fleet was in chaos. Admiral Krektor stood on his bridge watching his tactical display in disbelief. 3 of his heavy cruisers were reporting damage. His smaller escort ships were firing wildly at targets they could barely track. "How are they doing this?" he roared at his tactical officer. "Unknown, Admiral. The small craft are too fast for our targeting systems. They appear, attach explosive devices, and disappear before we can respond." Minki's shuttle screamed past another Vrakthari ship so close that he could see the alien hull plating. His hands were steady on the controls, but his heart was pounding. He had never flown in space combat before, but the principles were the same as atmospheric flight. "Stay low, stay fast, stay alive," he whispered to himself. It was something his old flight instructor had taught him. He spotted his next target, a medium-sized ship that was trying to turn its weapons toward the Soul's Pride. Minki dove underneath it, using the ship's own bulk to hide from its guns. The mining charges he carried were designed to break apart asteroids for easy collection. Each one was small but incredibly powerful. When they exploded against the alien hull, they created holes that vented atmosphere and disabled systems. "This is Minki," he called over the radio. "Target 3 is damaged. Moving to Target 4. On the Soul's Pride, Yunseo was coordinating the strangest weapons attack in human history. She had used the ship's tractor beam to collect dozens of small asteroids and chunks of space debris. Now she was launching them at the alien ships using magnetic accelerators. The rocks were moving at incredible speed. When they hit the Vrakthari shields, something unexpected happened. The alien defense systems were designed to stop energy beams and explosive missiles. They were not built to handle simple chunks of stone moving at a significant fraction of light speed. "Direct hit on the lead cruiser," Yunseo reported. "Their forward shields are down." Captain Heejin watched the battle unfold on her screens. It was working, but barely. The human shuttles were like insects attacking elephants. They could hurt the big ships, but one good hit from an alien weapon would destroy them completely. "Junho," she called to engineering. "How much longer for the jump drive?" 40 minutes, Captain, but at this rate we might not need it." On the monitoring station, Velthari was watching history being made. His instruments were recording everything, but he could not believe what he was seeing. A species with primitive technology was defeating the Vrakthari. "Sir," his assistant said, "this is impossible according to all our military theories." "I know," Velthari replied. "Send all data to the High Council immediately. They need to see this." The message reached the capital world in minutes. In the Sais Great Council chambers, representatives from hundreds of species watched in shocked silence. The Vrakthari had been the galaxy's most feared military force for over 1,000 years. They had never been defeated in open combat. "How are they doing this?" asked Council member Retsan. "Their tactics make no sense," replied military advisor Dextar. "Small craft cannot defeat heavy cruisers. It violates every principle of space warfare." But the humans did not know about the principles of space warfare. They were fighting the way they knew how, using lessons learned from thousands of years of conflict on Earth. Back in the battle, Dongwu was analyzing the alien response patterns. The Vrakthari ships were trying to adapt, but they were slow to change. Their formations were designed for fighting other large vessels. "Captain," he said, "they are predictable. Watch how they turn their ships. They always rotate the same way. They follow patterns." Hyojin studied the display. Dongwu was right. The alien ships moved like they were following a rulebook. They had standard responses for different situations, but those responses were not working against human tactics. It's like they have never fought anyone who did not follow the same rules, she said. Exactly, Captain. They expect their enemies to behave in certain ways. We are not behaving that way. Another shuttle pilot, Kyung-ho, was approaching a damaged Vrakthari ship. The alien vessel was trying to repair its shields, but Kyung-ho could see the weak points where the hull plating had been cracked. He attached his mining charges carefully, placing them where they would do the most damage. When they exploded, the alien ship's entire weapons array went dark. Target 7 is neutralized, he reported. Admiral Krektor was getting desperate. Half his fleet was damaged, and he still could not land a solid hit on the tiny human craft. His crews were firing everything they had, but the small ships were too fast and too unpredictable. Sir, his communications officer said, perhaps we should call for reinforcements. Reinforcements? Krektor's voice was dangerous. You think I need help to defeat one primitive ship? But privately, he was starting to worry. This was not going as planned. The humans were fighting in ways that made no sense. Their weapons were crude, but they were using them very effectively. On the Soul's Pride, So-Young was monitoring the alien communications. She was starting to understand parts of their language, and what she heard was interesting. Captain, she said, the aliens are confused. They keep saying things like impossible and does not compute. I think they cannot understand how we are winning. Good, Heejin replied. Confusion is our best weapon right now. The battle continued, but the tide was clearly turning. The human shuttles had disabled or damaged most of the Vrakthari escort ships. The larger cruisers were still dangerous, but they were moving slowly and cautiously. Yoon Seo had found an even better use for their improvised rock-throwing weapons. Instead of aiming at the ships directly, she was targeting their sensor arrays and communication systems. Blind and deaf, the alien vessels could not coordinate their attacks. This is incredible, Taemin said. We are actually winning. But Hye-jin was not celebrating yet. She knew that damaged enemies were often the most dangerous. Stay alert, she warned her crew. Wounded animals fight hardest. She was right to be cautious. Admiral Krektor had made a decision that would change everything. If he could not win with tactics, he would win with raw power. All ships, he commanded, focus all weapons on the main human vessel. Ignore the small craft. Destroy their mothership and the insects will have nowhere to return. It was a desperate plan, but it might work. The Soul's Pride was larger and slower than the shuttles. If the Vrakthari could concentrate their fire, they might be able to break through the human ship's defenses. Captain, Dongwu called out. All enemy ships are turning toward us. They are charging weapons for a coordinated attack. Hye-jin felt her stomach drop. This was what she had been afraid of. The alien ships still had enough firepower to destroy her vessel, even damaged as they were. All shuttles return to ship immediately, she ordered. Captain, Minki's voice came over the radio. We can keep fighting. Give us more time. Negative. Return now. That's an order. The human shuttles raced back toward the Soul's Pride as the Vrakthari ships prepared for their final attack. Energy was building in their weapon systems. Even damaged, 12 heavy cruisers had enough firepower to turn the human ship into vapor. But as the alien vessels moved into position, Jun-ho made an announcement that changed everything. Captain, jump drive is ready. We can leave any time. Hye-jin had a choice. She could order an immediate retreat and escape with her ship and crew intact, or she could stay and finish what they had started. She thought about Earth, alone and undefended. If the Vrakthari survived this battle, they would know where humanity came from. They would bring larger fleets and better weapons. This might be the only chance to stop them. All shuttles aboard, she ordered. Prepare for emergency acceleration. Captain, Yoon Seo said, I have one more idea for the rock-throwing system. Tell me quickly. Instead of small asteroids, what if we used one big one? There is a large chunk of space debris about 2 kilometers away. If we could accelerate it to high speed, Hye-jin understood immediately. A large asteroid moving at relativistic speeds would hit like a nuclear weapon, but it would take time to position and accelerate. time they might not have. Do it, she decided. Junho, give her all the power she needs. As the Soul's Pride began maneuvering toward the large asteroid, the Vrakthari ships finished their preparations. Admiral Krektor stood ready to give the order that would end this embarrassing battle. All ships report ready, Admiral. Fire! Dozens of energy beams lanced out toward the human ship, but at the last second, the Soul's Pride moved. Not away from the attack, but toward it. The ship accelerated directly at the Vrakthari formation, pushing the large asteroid ahead of it like a battering ram. The alien weapons hit the asteroid instead of the ship. The rock absorbed the energy and kept moving, gaining speed as the Soul's Pride's engines pushed it faster and faster. What are they doing? Krektor shouted. His tactical officer's voice was quiet with shock. Admiral, they are using our own weapons against us. The asteroid is absorbing our energy and converting it to kinetic force. The massive chunk of rock slammed into the Vrakthari flagship like the fist of an angry god. The impact was so powerful that it destroyed the ship instantly and sent shockwaves through the entire fleet. In the sudden silence that followed, Captain Hyojin opened a communication channel to the surviving alien ships. The news spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Emergency broadcasts flooded the communication networks. The impossible had happened. The Vrakthari war fleet, conquerors of 47 worlds, had been destroyed by an unknown species. On the Galactic Empire's capital world, the High Council was in emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great chamber, all talking at once. Fear and confusion echoed through the vast hall. Order! Shouted Council Leader Vexmore, his voice amplified across the chamber. We must have order! The crowd slowly quieted, but the tension remained thick in the air. Everyone wanted answers, but no one had them. Report, Vexmore commanded, pointing to military advisor Dextar. Dextar activated the holographic display. At the center of the chamber, images from the battle appeared in the air above the assembled representatives. They watched in silence as human shuttles darted between massive warships like insects around giants. The unknown species used tactics we have never seen before, Dextar explained. Small craft attacking large vessels, primitive kinetic weapons defeating advanced energy shields. They violated every principle of modern space warfare. How is this possible? Asked Representative Kilnara from the Zenthari Republic. Our records show the Vrakthari fleet should have been able to destroy 1,000 ships that size. The humans did not fight like 1,000 ships, Dextar replied. They fought like nothing we have ever encountered. Their tactics have no basis in accepted military theory. On the Soul's Pride, Captain Hyojin was dealing with her own crisis. The ship's communication systems were being flooded with messages from dozens of different sources. Every species in the local area wanted to talk to the humans who had defeated the Vrakthari. Captain, Taman said, looking overwhelmed. We have 17 different first contact requests. Some of them sound friendly. Others... He paused, listening to his translation programs. Others sound like threats. Chang Ho, their diplomatic officer, was trying to make sense of all the messages. He had trained for first contact situations, but not like this. Everything he had learned assumed peaceful meetings with one species at a time. Captain, I recommend we do not respond to any of them yet. We need time to understand what we are dealing with. Hyojin agreed. Set course for the edge of the system. We need space to think. But thinking was becoming difficult. As the Soul's Pride moved away from the battle site, more ships appeared. Some were clearly military vessels bristling with weapons. Others looked like exploration or diplomatic ships. How many? Hyojin asked. 43 ships so far, Captain, Dongwu reported. More arriving every hour. And Captain, some of those military ships are bigger than the entire Vrakthari fleet. Hyojin, their intelligence officer, was working frantically to analyze the intercepted communications between the alien ships. What she was learning made her very worried. Captain, she said, I think we have started something we do not understand. These species are not just curious about us. They are afraid. Afraid of us? Afraid of what we represent. From what I can understand of their communications, the galaxy has been stable for thousands of years. The same species have held power for millennia. We just proved that their assumptions about military strength are wrong. Light years away, in the secret chambers of the Galactic Empire's intelligence service, Director Mordak was having the same realization. He stood before a wall of screens showing data from across the galaxy. Everyone showed the same thing: panic. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have confirmation that 17 different species are mobilizing their fleets. The Zenthari Republic has put their entire military on high alert. The Corvan Empire is recalling all their ships from the outer systems. They think this is the beginning of an invasion," Mordak realized. One small human ship has convinced the entire galaxy that a new military power is rising. "What are your orders, sir?" Mordak thought carefully. This situation was more dangerous than anyone realized. If the major powers thought humanity was a threat, they might unite against Earth. The combined fleets of the galaxy could turn the human homeworld to ash. "Send a message to the High Council. We need to control this situation before it becomes a war." On the Soul's Pride, the crew was starting to understand the magnitude of their situation. So Young had been analyzing the approaching alien ships, and her findings were disturbing. "Captain, these are not exploration vessels. Most of them are warships, and they are using technology far more advanced than the Vrakthari had." "How advanced?" "Their energy output is 10 times higher than anything we faced before. Their ships are larger, faster, and better armed. Captain, if they decide to attack us, we cannot win." Hee-Jin felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. She had made decisions in the heat of battle, but now she had time to think about the consequences. Earth was defenseless. If she had angered the wrong people, her entire species might pay the price. "Yu-Jin," she said, "what exactly are they saying about us?" Yu-Jin had been working with the translation computers for hours, slowly building an understanding of the various alien languages. What she found was both fascinating and terrifying. "They call us the unknown factor, Captain. Some species want to study us. Others want to recruit us as allies. But several are talking about containment and elimination of the threat." "Threat? We are one small ship. To them we represent something much bigger. They think we are the advanced scouts of a vast human empire. They believe Earth has been hiding advanced technology and preparing for galactic conquest." The irony was almost funny. Humanity's first contact with alien life had convinced the galaxy that humans were a major military power. In reality, the Soul's Pride was Earth's only interstellar ship. Chang Ho had been listening to the alien communications and was starting to form a plan. "Captain, I think we need to tell them the truth. If they knew we were not a threat, maybe they would leave us alone. Or maybe they would see us as weak and decide to conquer Earth," Dongwu replied. "Right now they are afraid of us. Fear can be better protection than weapons." Hee-Jin considered both options. Neither was good. If they revealed Earth's weakness, they might invite invasion. If they maintained the illusion of strength, they might face the combined fleets of the galaxy. Before she could decide, Taman announced something that changed everything. "Captain, we are receiving a direct communication from the Galactic Empire. They want to talk." The message was formal and polite, but Yu-Jin detected undertones of urgency and fear. "They are requesting a diplomatic meeting," she translated. "They want to discuss mutual interests and galactic stability." "Captain, this is not just a first contact situation anymore. They think we are a major political power." On the Empire's capital world, Council Leader Vexmore was preparing for the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. He had no idea what these humans wanted or how powerful they really were. All he knew was that they had destroyed the Vrakthari fleet using impossible tactics. "What do we know about their homeworld?" he asked his advisors. "Almost nothing," Intelligence Director Mordak replied. "Our last survey of their system was 2,000 years ago. At that time, the third planet showed signs of primitive life, but nothing that indicated intelligence. 2,000 years is a long time. They could have developed from simple animals to interstellar travelers in that period. Possible, but unprecedented. No species has ever advanced that quickly. Vexmore studied the battle recordings again. The human tactics were so strange that they seemed almost random. But they had worked perfectly against the Vrakthari. What if their rapid advancement explains their unusual fighting methods? He wondered aloud. What if they developed space travel so quickly that they never learned our conventions? They fight differently because they think differently. It was a disturbing thought. The galaxy's military doctrines were based on millions of years of warfare between similar species. But if a species developed completely independently, they might approach combat in ways no one had ever considered. Sir, Mordak said, there is another possibility. What if they are not from this galaxy at all? What if they are refugees or scouts from another galactic civilization? The thought sent chills through the council chamber. If humans were representatives of an external power, then the galaxy might be facing its first interstellar war. Back on the Soul's Pride, the crew was watching dozens of alien ships maintain their distance around them. The ships were not attacking, but they were not leaving either. It was like being surrounded by a pack of wolves deciding whether to attack or retreat. Captain, So Young said, I have been analyzing their ship designs. These vessels come from at least 12 different species. They have very different technologies and capabilities. Are they working together? That is what is strange. Some of their communication frequencies suggest they are coordinating with each other, but other frequencies indicate suspicion and mistrust. Captain, I think they are as worried about each other as they are about us. Hye-jin began to understand the larger picture. The galaxy was not united. These different species were rivals, who normally competed for resources and territory. But humanity's appearance had forced them to work together, at least temporarily. We are the unknown variable in their equation, she realized. 6 months had passed since the Soul's Pride first encountered the Vrakthari fleet. The galaxy was a different place now, and so was humanity. Admiral Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Busan, watching a fleet of 30 human vessels move through space in perfect formation. Each ship was a marvel of engineering that combined human innovation with carefully selected alien technologies. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we are receiving the final approach clearance from the Galactic Empire's capital world. Kyung-soo nodded. Today would determine whether humanity had a future among the stars, or would face the combined might of every species in the galaxy. The human fleet was not large compared to what some species could field, but it was revolutionary. Na Young, now chief scientist of the human space program, had spent months studying captured Vrakthari technology and diplomatic gifts from other species. Admiral, she said from her station, all systems are operating within normal parameters. The hybrid engines are performing better than we had hoped. The human ships used engines that no other species would have thought to build. They combined human gravitational manipulation with alien power cores and navigation systems that other species had developed separately over millions of years. The result was faster, more efficient, and completely unpredictable. On the Empire's capital world, the same representatives who had watched the first battle were gathering again, but this time the mood was very different. Instead of panic, there was curiosity mixed with fear and hope. They are here, announced military advisor Dextar as the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Council leader Vexmore studied the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a formation that made no sense according to standard military doctrine, but then again, humans never did what was expected. How many ships? 30 vessels ranging from small scouts to medium cruisers. But sir, our sensors cannot fully analyze their capabilities. They are using technologies we do not understand. In the 6 months since first contact, the galaxy had learned that humanity was indeed from Earth, and that Earth was indeed defensible. What had shocked everyone was how quickly humans had adapted to galactic civilization. Where other species took centuries to develop new technologies, humans had reverse-engineered alien systems in months. Where other species fought using established doctrines, humans kept inventing new tactics. Where other species formed rigid alliances, Humans seemed to make friends and enemies with equal ease. Wu Jin, now humanity's chief cultural liaison, had spent those 6 months traveling between different worlds. He had learned that the galaxy was far more complex than anyone on Earth had imagined. "Admiral," he reported from his position on the Busan, "I have confirmed intelligence from our diplomatic contacts. There are at least 47 different species represented in the capital system today. This is not just a meeting between humans and the Empire. This is a galactic assembly." Kyung-soo was not surprised. Humanity's appearance had forced every major power to reconsider their positions. Some species saw humans as potential allies against old enemies. Others saw them as a threat to be eliminated. Most simply wanted to understand what humans were and what they wanted. "Are the Vrakthari here?" he asked. "Yes, sir. 3 ships. They are maintaining their distance from everyone else." The Vrakthari had been humbled by their defeat, but they had not been destroyed. In the months since the battle, they had studied human tactics obsessively. Some reports suggested they were adapting their own strategies based on what humans had shown them. As the human fleet approached the massive space station that served as the Empire's diplomatic center, Admiral Kyung-soo reflected on how much had changed. Earth was no longer alone. Human colonies were being established on 3 different worlds, each one protected by defensive installations that combined human and alien technology. Trade agreements had been signed with 12 species. Cultural exchange programs were underway, with 20 more. But most importantly, humanity had proven that the galaxy's assumptions about technology and warfare were wrong. "Incoming transmission from the station," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." The holographic display activated, showing Council Leader Vexmore. The alien leader looked older than he had 6 months ago and more tired. "Admiral Kyung-soo," Vexmore said in carefully pronounced English. "Welcome to the capital. We have much to discuss." "Thank you, Council Leader. We appreciate the invitation. Before we begin formal talks, I must ask, what do your people truly want from the galaxy?" It was the question everyone had been asking for months. Some species believed humans wanted to conquer the galaxy. Others thought they were seeking technology or resources. A few suspected they were refugees from some distant catastrophe. "We want what we have always wanted," Kyung-soo replied simply. "To explore, to learn, and to find our place among the stars." Vexmore studied the human admiral carefully. In 6 months of observation, human behavior had been remarkably consistent. They fought when attacked, but they preferred to negotiate. They were curious about everything and eager to share knowledge. They formed alliances based on mutual benefit rather than domination. "Your people have disrupted many established patterns," Vexmore said diplomatically. "Change is difficult," Kyung-soo agreed. "But sometimes it is necessary." On the station, representatives from dozens of species were watching the conversation. The Zenthari Republic had sent their entire diplomatic corps. The Corvan Empire had deployed a massive fleet just outside the system. Even the mysterious Ethereal Collective had sent observers. Everyone wanted to know what would come next. Na-young had been studying the political situation and had reached some interesting conclusions. "Admiral," she said privately over a secure channel, "I believe the galaxy has been stagnant for much longer than we realized. These species have been using the same technologies and fighting the same ways for thousands of years. We represent something they had forgotten was possible: innovation." Kyung-soo nodded. "And they do not know whether to embrace it or destroy it." "Exactly. But sir, I think we have an opportunity here. Many of these species are tired of the old ways. They want change but have been afraid to pursue it. We could be the catalyst for a new era." The formal negotiations began in the Great Assembly Hall. Representatives from every major species sat in a vast circle, with the human delegation at the center. It was both an honor and a way of making sure everyone could watch the humans closely. Wu Jin had coached Admiral Kyung-soo on diplomatic protocols, but he had also advised him to remain authentically human. "They expect us to be different," he had said. "If we try to act like them, we lose our advantage." Council Leader Vexmore opened the assembly with a formal statement about galactic peace and stability. Then he turned to the humans. Admiral Kyung-soo, your species has demonstrated capabilities that challenge our understanding of what is possible. Some of my colleagues believe you represent a threat to galactic order. Others see you as an opportunity for advancement. What do you say to both groups? Kyung-soo stood and looked around the assembly. Hundreds of alien beings watched him with expressions that ranged from curiosity to fear to hope. 6 months ago, we were alone in the universe, he began. We knew nothing of your civilizations, your technologies, or your conflicts. We came to the stars seeking knowledge and friendship. He paused, letting his words be translated into dozens of languages. We found war instead, but we also found something else. We found that the galaxy is full of species who have forgotten how to dream of new possibilities. A murmur went through the assembly. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. We do not seek to conquer or dominate. We seek to contribute, to show that there are always new ways to solve old problems, to prove that innovation and cooperation can achieve more than tradition and fear. Representative Kilnara from the Zenthari Republic stood up. Pretty words, Admiral, but your actions have been aggressive. You destroyed an entire Vrakthari fleet. We defended ourselves against unprovoked attack, Kyung-soo replied calmly. We used the tools available to us in ways that our attackers did not expect. Is innovation now considered aggression? From across the assembly, the Vrakthari representative spoke. Admiral Theknor had been the sole survivor of his species' flagship and had spent months studying the battle recordings. The humans fought with honor, he said, surprising everyone. They offered peace before violence. They used tactics we had never encountered because we had never been creative enough to develop them ourselves. They have taught us that strength comes not from following old patterns but from finding new ones. The assembly erupted in discussion. The Vrakthari had been the galaxy's most feared warriors. If they were admitting that humans had something to teach them, then perhaps the other species needed to reconsider their own assumptions. Council Leader Vexmore called for order. When the chamber quieted, he addressed the human delegation directly. What do you propose, Admiral? How do we move forward from this point? Kyung-soo had been preparing for this moment for months. He activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. We propose a new kind of alliance, he said, not based on dominance or submission, but on mutual cooperation and shared innovation.